If you'd have told me 10 years ago that menopause would help me to understand myself better, I'd have really laughed. But somehow, everything that's felt confusing throughout the whole of my life has suddenly started making sense. Now, just as a little disclaimer, I'm in no way saying that menopause causes autism or anything like that. What I'm saying is it helps us to understand ourselves better. And if you have any suspicions or thoughts about yourself, please consult a doctor. Honestly, throughout my life, I've just kind of felt like I was bad at coping with things. Like, I always felt different. I always felt overwhelmed, over emotional. My dad was always telling me that I needed to toughen up and not take things to heart so much. And I didn't always understand jokes that were being said, or I would try and make a joke and it would go kind of misunderstood. And I would often feel exhausted by social situations. When I was at university, I used to drink a lot to try and cope with social situations. And I honestly just thought life was really, really hard work. I was like, do you know what? Life's just hard work. It's just difficult. And I don't know why we all do it, because it's just too hard. And I think there was always this feeling of, if I could just try harder, if I could just copy this person or be like that person, then life would become easier in some way. And I think throughout most of my life, I kind of blame myself for this, like, oh, I just didn't understand, or that person didn't get me, or this person wasn't the right person for me. But I think now, when I look back, a lot of things just make a lot more sense. To be honest with you, menopause just changed everything. It really did. Menopause my perimenopause state, I had no symptoms really, and then my menopause hit and I was just really all over the place. I think a lot of people feel that way, like one is easier to deal with than the other. But for me, menopause has been more mental than physical, to be honest with you. It's been more about dismantling how the patriarchy and society want me to feel about getting older. And I've had to deal with magic or practice, YouTube even, just feeling like, oh, this is a young man's game, you know, just feeling like I'm too old to be doing this. The reason my videos don't land or people don't click is because I'm an older witch, etc. And I think a lot of this kind of started to bubble up to the surface as I was dealing with increased sensory overload and sensitivity, just more feeling of overwhelm. I was having more brain fog, more emotional outbursts, shall we say, difficult like to mask, and also trying not to mask as much really led to people who are close to me, like my mom and my dad and my husband, like not understanding me all of a sudden because I wasn't pretending to be something that I wasn't. And I found myself needing more recovery time, more time on my own. I was like trotting upstairs and lying down on the bed more because I just needed quiet. I just felt too much. Everything was just too much. And I think quite often I found that a lot of these coping strategies that had worked throughout my whole life suddenly didn't work. And it was because everything starts to happen when you're in your menopause. A lot of things start to change, a lot of the way you feel, a lot of the way you see yourself, the way society sees you changes. And so you kind of find yourself not knowing how to cope in the world. And I hope that if you're here, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. I think there's so many things when I look back at my childhood, when I look back at different friendships that just ended out of nowhere and I had literally no idea what I had done or what I had said. Experiences at school where I tried to ask a question or tried to say something to a teacher and then ended up being told off. Burning out all the time because I was just trying so much harder than everybody else, and finding security and safety in being alone and having a very regimented life. And I thought that was just the things that helped me. But the more that I've learned about autism, the more I've learned from other autistic creators out there who are younger than me and we understand autism so much better than we did when I was a kid, I started to understand why these things mattered so much, why routines mattered, why unexpected changes or things that happened out of the blue upset me so much, and why I find so much joy in the little things like collectibles and certain TV shows, certain films, certain types of music that are just like my little buried into joy moments. And understanding all that came right when I was hitting perimenopause. That's when people started talking more and more about autism, and I started to see autism in my family on my mum's side a lot, and realising, oh, that's why. It wasn't me, it's just my brain is different. And it was kind of like, instead of giving me new problems to worry about or new things to fret about, realising that I have autism and understanding that a little bit around the menopause symptoms and growing older and things, it's just given all those experiences through my life so much more meaning, and I've understood myself looking back so much more. I think friendships that I've just kind of gone, and I have just out of nowhere, just seems like one day that person decided they didn't want to be friends with me anymore. It was probably something I'd said or done and not realised, and they didn't know I had autism, or even probably much what autism was, because nobody really talked about it back in the day. I sound so old now. But I think I stopped fighting myself and fighting my own brain, if that makes sense. I stopped asking, like, why can't I cope? Why do other people find life so much easier than me? And instead started thinking about what I needed to make life easier. I think one of the best things I got, and I got my first pair for Christmas this year, was some noise cancelling headphones, and listening to music or listening to a podcast or something with my noise cancelling headphones just makes life so much easier. I had no idea how much noise was causing chronic pain, was causing fatigue, was causing problems. And if you've been watching my videos over the last 2 years, maybe a little bit more, I've kind of been leaning more into looking at the things that I can do to make my life easier. Things like resting more routines that, although yes, they are routines, they're also seen as in a ritual sense and magicified, if you like. I love finding whimsy in the moment and adding that into this magical, whimsical little routine to get through the day, but adding more flow into it as well. So not being quite so regimented, letting down my boundaries, letting down my guard around change has been a big help for me. But also building better boundaries where those boundaries were needed. So letting them down in some areas of my life and building them up in others. And there have been people where I've built little walls around people in my life and been like, I like you, but you can just stay in this little walled up area and I'll see you now and again, and that makes me happy, but you can't be an everyday part of my life. Things like sensory accommodations, like dimmer switches. I'm going to add dimmer switches everywhere, I think. That's one of the big things that I love, is I loved having a dimmer switch in my bedroom as a kid, and I'm going to swap over the dimmer switch in my kid bedroom into our bedroom now as soon as I can. I think it's things like allowing myself to be different and not trying to fit in with everybody else. That has been huge. Like giving myself permission to make weird hand gestures and hum to myself. I do this weird thing when I'm just like chilling, that I'll like make this weird face. I didn't realise I did it until I started editing my YouTube videos. Like, what is that weird face? It's just my face. I think allowing yourself to be different is a big part of accepting that autism, like loving magical wallpaper and adding whimsy and making, like, in a recent video I made like a whimsical mermaid bathroom and added all stars onto the walls, and all my aunts came to visit my mom who hasn't been well, and they all just kind of, I was like, oh, let me show you my lovely bathroom, and they walked in, they're all like, oh, it's very you. And I was like, yes, it is. In the past, I would have been like, oh no, everyone hates it, I'm gonna rip it all out and make it grey or whatever. But the me now is like, yeah, it is very me, isn't it? I love it. Actually, we've just done our kitchen as well. You'll see that in a vlog in a couple of weeks, and probably in pictures and things. There's been a lot of stuff happening in my life that's allowing me to really spread my wings and be the weird little Beverly that I always have been, but has been kind of hidden away. Menopause has really become a season of letting go. Rather like the trees in autumn, it's a time of letting go of all those things that have held you back in life. And I think when you start thinking about demasking your autism, and I will leave information down below if you're like, what does demasking mean, because I know that my mum and dad just didn't have a clue when I started talking about it. Oh, I'm demasking. They were like, you're whatting? What does this mean? And just to put it in context, when I was at secondary school, which was quite a big comprehensive school, like 1,000 pupils or something like that. It's quite a big school, and we had one person diagnosed with autism in my school. Now if you look at children in school and you see how many are on the spectrum of autism, you start to realise that we understand it so much better. I mean, when I was at school, everyone just thought autism was something that boys had, and it was certain specific boys as well. They were always white, upper class boys. It was never like working class kids, and that just comes from our understanding and our understanding of autism just moving us forwards, and that's amazing. It's not a bad thing, trust me. But I think instead of trying to fit in, instead of pretending I fit in, instead of, you know, if somebody says, oh, I love this band, and I think, oh, I mean, they're okay, I would now be like, well, I don't really like that band, I like this band. When I was a teenager, all my music, like most of my musical tastes were based on what my friends liked. When it came to picking my GCSEs, I just picked what my friends were doing, and I didn't think about what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be until I finished like sixth form college and was suddenly like, oh, I could go to university. What would I do? I think realising that I have autism and going through the menopause coming at the same time makes so much sense. And it's not about living other people's expectations. It's not about changing who I am. It's about just being who I always was, but I was too scared to show. And meeting myself in a whole different new way, which is going to be so much better for me as a human being. What I've learned at this point in my life, just coming up to the age of 50, is that it's never too late to understand yourself. It's never too late to realise things about yourself, like maybe the job you always did, actually I don't like this job, I want to go and do this other job, or I'm not happy with my partner, or I don't think I'm straight. These things, these labels, can sometimes be limitations, and I think sometimes we can pop this autism label on ourselves because I am self-diagnosed, which is perfectly valid. They don't always bring a limitation. It's about understanding yourself better. And I remember being a kid and people would say, oh, she's depressed. Oh, well, she can't go to the doctor because then they'll label her and it'll hold her back, kind of thing. It was this thought that once you had a label attached to you, people would stop letting you do things. Whereas I'm actually finding at this point in my life the exact opposite is true. I'm finding out who I am, what I like, what I enjoy, and not being held back by what society wants me to be like and what society wants me to enjoy and do. We deserve to live lives that make us happy, that give us joy. And in this economy, that can be difficult. But I think we do deserve that. We deserve to have accommodations and to feel better about ourselves, whether we're able to get a diagnosis of something or not. I think sometimes official diagnoses are really hard because they have to, in order to get a diagnosis and to make it work, you have to kind of narrow the field down. And that can make it really hard for people who have been masking for their whole lives to then present themselves in a way that that practitioner can see through the mask and see the truth of it. I don't know whether I'm ever going to seek a formal diagnosis for my autism. Not because I think a label would hold me back, but just because I don't think it really matters in a formal sense. And it's the first thing that I've really felt like it doesn't really matter. And the reason I say that is because I don't want some practitioner to then tell me how to live my life. I want to just experience life at this time. Maybe in the future it's something that I'll want to do, but right now, after years and years and years of trying to live how everybody else lives and try and show myself in a way that everybody else does, I just feel at peace in who I am, and that's better than trying to force myself into any mold that's ever been made for me before. And now I'm in the menopause and I'm feeling free. I really don't want to be pushed back down by some diagnoses or put into a crate or a box, you know. I just want to be me. If you're finding yourself questioning things that your whole life you've thought or felt about yourself, you're not alone. That's all I really want to say. Whatever answers you find, whether you seek them formally on social media, you read a book, or you, I don't know, just go for it. I hope it leads you to having more compassion for yourself and more kindness for yourself, because that's the thing that I've found. I've just found myself being like, oh Beverly, it's okay to be you and don't be scared anymore. And I hope that you find peace too, if this is something, if you're going through this as well. I think many people my age are going through this. So let me know down below all your thoughts and feelings around this subject of the menopause and discovering that you have autism. I think I've made videos or comments about this in the past and had so many of you leave me comments that have been amazing to talk to you guys. It always is. It helps me understand myself and understand you guys more. So don't forget to leave this video a cheeky like, comment, subscribe, all the free things that help me know and the YouTubeverse that help me know and the YouTubeverse know that you enjoyed the video, and it'll share it out just a little bit more. Take care everyone, have a wonderful magical week, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.